So the Battle of Thermopylae happened exactly 2,500 years ago in 480 BC. And the purpose of this video today is to give thanks to the brave soldiers who died fighting against the Persians. The brave 300 Spartans who gave their lives, their last breath, to defend all of Greece against the Persian menace, the foundation of Western society. Well, it wasn't actually just 300 Spartans, it was more like 8,000 hoplites, but from all over Greece. But the point of today is to compare the primary sources, the historical text, to the movie 300. Because 300, a lot of its conversations and a lot of what it depicts is derived from these sources. And you'll see as I read some snippets, and we'll look at some clips from 300. And if you haven't seen the movie, spoiler, but you should see it. It's actually a really good movie. I saw it the other day, and I forgot just how good it was. I mean, the movie came out in 2007, and I was 12 years old around that time. So I just remember wanting to be a Spartan. And every time you look at someone who plays like a game that's based in Greece or antiquity, there's always a Spartan player, right? There's always someone who just plays a Spartan. So why talk about just the Greeks and not the Persians? There's a few reasons. One is that there's like virtually nothing from the sources that is from the Persian point of view. Nor is there any, like there is one, there's like two Persian pieces of evidence that is related to Thermopylae, and we'll look at them. I'm nothing gonna show them because they're cool, but another reason is Greece is akin to my culture. You know what I mean? It's where Western society is born from. And as someone who loves history, especially antiquity, and loves Western society, I feel that a video should be made. I mean, it's 2,500 years ago. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to make an anniversary video on that. All right, well, let's just get right into it. First line, right? Let's read the most iconic, I think, from the movie 300 is right here. When someone said, "Because of the arrows of the barbarians, it is impossible to see the sun." And he said is Leonidas, "Won't it be nice then, if we shall have shade?" So reading this shit is hard. Won't it be nice then, if we shall have shade in which to fight them?
1,000 nations of the Persian Empire descend upon you. Our arrows will blot out the sun. Then we will fight in the shade.
Just to go on a side note, when I do historical videos and I have to read translations like this and I say it into the audio, into the mic, I always have to do it multiple times because my brain fills in words, because the language used or translated is just a little different than what I'm used to. Let's go to the next line. Another snippet here is when Xerxes writes to him again being Leonidas. All of this is Leonidas, but or at least this part of it. Xerxes wrote to him, "It is possible for you, by not fighting against God, but by ranging yourself on my side, to be the sole ruler of Greece." But he wrote in reply, "If you had any knowledge of the noble things of life, you would refrain from coveting others' possessions. But for me to die for Greece is better than to be the sole ruler over the people of my race." Now, obviously, you read this and it's just filled with biases. I mean, Herodotus, he was a staunch supporter of Athenian democracy, and anytime you read any work by him, it's sprinkled in there. But you can see how the movie really takes it when Xerxes says by not fighting against God, right? Did Xerxes himself believe he was a god? No, we don't. He believed in Ahura Mazda. I mean, politically, if you look at his inscriptions at like Persepolis, you'll see that it's like Ahura Mazda, protect me, my family, stuff like that. So he did not see himself as a god. But you can see how the movie takes upon this and really plays on this. Obviously, Sparta, very militaristic. You know, to die for Greece is better than to be the sole ruler. I'm sure Sparta wouldn't mind being the sole ruler. You know, they just didn't want to be conquered. That's just really it. But I think we should ask the question, why did Sparta only send 300? There's actually a very good reason for that. The Spartans were actually celebrating a religious festival called the Carnair, and if you remember the oracle scene, where like the demon, the malformed, the malnourished, I don't even know, like dude has a lot of acne going on. You know, he tells Leonidas Sparta cannot go to war because of the Carnair, and that's true. As if there's one thing Spartans loved more than going to war, it was the gods and celebrating them. So Sparta only sent 300. I mean, Leonidas, the 300 were handpicked, right? They were probably the best of the best that Leonidas could find, and they all had sons. So they marched off. Right, that's why after the Battle of Thermopylae, Plataea, the Battle of Plataea, there was, I think, 10,000 Spartans there. So that's obviously that's probably their whole force. So let's continue. When Xerxes wrote again, "Hand over your arms," he wrote in reply, "Come and take them." In the movie, when Leonidas is screaming at the Persians, "Come and take them," or I believe he says like, "Come and get them," or something like that.
Spartans! Lay down your weapons! Persians! Come and get them!
But it's cool how the director, or I mean, it's based off the graphic novel, right? I haven't read the graphic novel, so I don't know how accurate the movie is to the graphic novel. But when you write or when you film historical movies, it is fun to see the creativity, taking something that may or may not have happened, right? I mean, when I say that, it's because who knows if Xerxes wrote to Leonidas and then, Leonidas replying, who knows about that? But to take sources and then expand upon them in a creative and imaginative way is, I think that's the best part of accurate, or not accurate, but historical films. The next line here, another iconic line from the movie: he bade his soldiers eat their breakfast as if they were to eat their dinner in the other world. The famous saying, tonight we dine in hell.
Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. For tonight, we dine in hell!
That is taken from Plutarch's saying of the Spartans. Let's move to Herodotus now. Another great line from the film is when Leonidas is talking to Xerxes in the first meeting, and Leonidas tells Xerxes that he has few men among his army, and that they get that from this line right here, where they say, "But they made it plain to all, and chiefly to the king himself, that for all their numbers of human creatures there were few men among them." So let's look at the Persian men for a second. How many forces did Xerxes muster? Well, according to Herodotus, and actually according to the movie, we'll go to the movie first. The movie says that Xerxes has millions of men, right? And the movie, I think Leonidas says a million, or millions, plural. But Herodotus reports that Xerxes mustered 2,317,610 men. That's if you combine the sea and land forces. But that's not all. That's just fighting troops. If you combine like the servants that accompanied them, if you combine the rowers of the ships, because they're not fighting, they're just rowing, and if you combine the families that would often accompany these men, it came out to like 5 million. Someone did the math. A scholar did the math, and it was like 5 million, which is crazy. I mean, Herodotus does say that Xerxes' force drank rivers dry. And so, I mean, it's impossible, I think, around this time. I don't even think. There's a work called The Emptiness of Asia. It actually is off the play by Aeschylus, I think that's how you say his name. It's Aeschylus Persian, the Persians, I think is what it's called. And it's a play written 10 years, not even 10 years, less than 10 years after. No, it's about 10 years. I'm sorry. After the Persian Wars. And it's like the Persian point of view. And it's like everyone's depressed pretty much throughout the whole play because Xerxes is draining Asia. But anyway, I'm getting a little off track. But these amount of troops. I mean, Herodotus is just crazy. If you, I mean, could you really understand if you saw 1,000 people standing in front of you? You know, you probably thought back in the day that was like 10,000. You know what I mean? So you can't really, fault Herodotus for over exaggerating the numbers. I don't think anyone could really accurately report. But scholars do think that the number range that Xerxes was able to muster, like the forces, was around 30,000 to I think 150 or 120,000. Personally, I think it was probably 70,000 to 120,000 that he mustered. Because 70,000 isn't crazy. I mean, a lot of people were able to muster thousands of men during the age of Ares. And if you read Herodotus, the ratio between like Spartan deaths and Persian deaths is like way overinflated. If like one Spartan dies, it's like way more Persians die as a result. So he plays off of this theme. Yes, the Persians defeated the 300 Spartans, but the 300 Spartans like killed 2 million men, or 1 million men. But obviously that's not the case. If you look at it, they just held out for a few days, which probably wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but it's still amazing, a king with just 300 men going to his death. I mean, he probably knew he was going to die. I mean, I think they say it in Herodotus and Plutarch, but Herodotus is a good read. If you ever want to read some, I guess historical sources, I shouldn't say facts, but historical sources, Herodotus is a good read. If you read like the upbringing of Cyrus the Great, and I think his uncle, so Cyrus. I'm getting off track, but let me just talk about it real quick. Cyrus, so the king of Ashan, I think it's called Aslan. I don't know. I forget the name. But basically, the uncle of Cyrus, who was the king, was killing off like male heirs because he was told, this, how it goes, the prophecy, foreseeing his doom, and so he was killing everyone, and so he orders a servant to kill Cyrus, but the servant gives Cyrus to these farmers. I think they were sheep herders, and Cyrus, grows up and they find out that Cyrus is, related to the king, and they can't kill him, or for some reason, I forget. But the king takes the servant's brother and like kills him, and then like chops him up into like mincemeat, and then makes a nice mean chili. Nah, I don't know if it's chili, but he like feeds it to the servant, and the servant's like, "Wow, this is delicious." And the Cyrus's uncle is like, "Oh, really? Do you know what you eat?" And he's like, "Is this lamb? Is it?" I don't know. I'm just over exaggerating, but the uncle is like, "No, no, you're eating your brother. And what do you think?" And the guy's like, "This is delicious." He doesn't say it like that, but he was trying to be respectful. Like, I don't even know what the point was. But let's move on. I'm getting off track. Let's go to my boy Ephialtes. They really did him dirty in the movie. He looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, like times 10. He looked like he shouldn't be alive. And who would they say he was a Spartan? He wasn't a Spartan, actually. He was a Malian, I think it's called a Malian. They're Greeks just around the area. Nothing really like crazy. It was a dude from the area, and he went to Xerxes, and Xerxes was like, you know where the pass is, or do you know a way around? He's like, yeah, there's a pass. Yeah, I mean, like, what would Ephialtes? What was he supposed to do? A guy who mustered a humongous force. He's probably thinking about his family, like, don't murder and sell my family into slavery, which is a constant theme. Slavery is a constant theme in the Persian Wars when it comes to Greek sources, but which is Athenian democratic bias at play. Ephialtes, he just told him like that was just it. He doesn't really have a crazy story in Herodotus. I mean, he tells him and then he runs away in fear of the Spartans. I think he dies. I think he gets assassinated. But he's a normal Greek. He doesn't look like a mutant, and they don't say that he does in Herodotus. But it's cool that they, I like that stuff. Like a liar. Well, not a liar, but a betrayer, so to speak. It's portrayed as this malformed demon looking thing, and that's what's cool to me. Continuing, there's not really much more to say about 300 and Herodotus. I just I mean you could always say more. There's a few other things that I probably left out, but the point of this video is to bring awareness to an anniversary, a 2,500 year anniversary. I do want to show one more thing, which I said in the beginning of the video, is the Persian source we have. So before you use the image, it's a fragment of a cylinder found at Persepolis, and on the left are what is to be 3 Greek prisoners. In the middle is a Persian without a head, and he's holding the arm of another Greek prisoner, and there's a spear. There's a spear coming that's going through him, or not going through him, but it's about to impale him or impaling him. So the guy in the middle is supposedly Xerxes. That's what scholars believe, and you can tell they're Greeks because if you look at the guy he's holding, Xerxes holding the arm. If you look at the guy's head, and you see kind of those little rivets, that is the ornamentation on the Corinthian helmet. I say ornamentation because I don't know what the feather on the head is called, or the horsehair, the whatever. And I'm gonna scroll down here, and this is the image sketched out. This is what it looks like, and you can see here that in the middle is a Persian. We know it's a Persian because Xerxes and Darius many times are portrayed wielding a bow and a spear. And it might not be Xerxes. It could be an immortal too. It could be an immortal, but we think it's Xerxes. And that is like the iconic, the bow and the spear. So it may not be representative of Thermopylae, but scholars believe that it is. And that's the only piece we have of Thermopylae from the Persian sources. Oh, and another thing that I completely forgot, which I think should be talked about, is Xerxes, how he's portrayed. Xerxes in the movie looks like someone you would find at a gay bar.
FBI, open up!
But in reality, Xerxes would be having a full-blown beard, and his hair, he'd have hair that would be long and braided, just like his beard. In fact, we know what Xerxes looks like because we have an image of him sculpted at Persepolis, and I believe at Darius's tomb, Darius the Great. that is the end of the video. I hope that it's something new that I've done, and I hope that it wasn't too boring. It's kind of like a podcasty type video, I guess. And I hope that maybe you've learned something, or you find interest and read Herodotus, because you should. He's a great read. It's free. You can find him easily online. A lot of these primary sources, these ancient Greek texts, can be found free online, so you don't have to buy anything. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And to the 8,000 hoplites, Greek hoplites, that gave their life to stop, we can't under exaggerate. It was an empire, it was a lot of troops, and they sent 8,000 troops to defend the Battle of Thermopylae, and that takes a lot of courage. Would it have been remembered if Leonidas wasn't king, or a king didn't die there? Who knows? But we remember it. It's been remembered for millennia, and the Persians. I mean, they won. They at the Battle of Plataea. They defeated the Persians there. I mean, they sacked Athens. The Persians destroyed Athens. But the Spartans did defeat the Persians. And all we can do is remember and pass down that knowledge. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.
Remember us. As simple an order as a king can give. Remember why we died. He did not wish tribute or song. No monuments, no poems of war and valor. His wish was simple. Remember us, he said to me. That was his hope. Should any free soul come across that place. In all the countless centuries yet to be, may all our voices whisper to you from the ageless stones. Go tell the Spartans passerby that here, by Spartan law, we lie.